My idea of doing 2 sets of 3-minute VO2 max intervals during a Zwift race rather than outside because it was 104 degrees seemed like a good idea until I actually started the first one. Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. On the road this next month I have 3 events to finish out my season, 2 road races and the district criterium. My training this whole season has gone unusually well, and now I'm tweaking for this final month. Now, so you guys don't think that I'm just here sandbagging as a Category C. I am 67 years old and I am subject to AFib. I also figured that trying to do intervals in the middle of a Zwift race will be challenging enough. In fact, that 3-minute interval pretty much went out the window after about 45-50 seconds. As you can see by the graphics in the upper left-hand corner, my wattage has lightened up quite a bit. Now, it only shows like 17-18 seconds that we've been on the road, but it doesn't actually take into account the time that we are just sprinting our brains out getting to the course itself. But I pretty much knew that if I kept it up for 3 minutes, I would have been dropped soon after. So I changed my workout. Instead of 3-minute intervals, I would do shorter intervals. Could be 30 seconds, could be 60 seconds. Definitely I would have to recover under stress. So this had a lot of value too. The start was like an interval, so this is my second interval. My threshold is around 275 and my VO2 max starts around 290, 295. Now I have to be careful about shooting too many bullets off because this is just about a 24-mile race. And it's just not the Category C's I'm with. It's categories A through D. Now, there's only one A, I think. At least there was only one A finisher, so I'm going to guess that that was the only person that signed up. There were about 10 Bs, 10 Cs for sure, and a number of Ds. I found that typically during these longer races, at a certain point, the A's and B's are just going to light it up, and a lot of them are going to take off. Now, if I can make that happen during one of my intervals, I'll have a better chance of being able to stay with them. As I can see by my wattage in the upper left-hand corner, this interval lasted 30 seconds. I look up ahead and I see there's another group there. So I do kind of a smaller interval, still VO2 max wattage, and maybe like 20 seconds before I lighten up, and I think these guys are the Bs. After that last bridging interval, I was getting a bit tired, and so I would just try to conserve as much as I could. That being stated, we were on certain parts of the course, which was a bit challenging, in which I had to put actually power just to stay connected. And now it is 8 minutes later and we are on a sustained climb. As so you notice, I'm now going toward the back. I'm starting to look at the data on the right hand side and seeing who's behind me, and it looks like, it's not really great video here, I may have a couple people behind me, but the nearest people after us is about 5 seconds. Now we're getting that split I was talking about earlier. I'm trying my best to get up to those guys. I am in the middle of a 45-second interval. Why only 45 seconds? Well, pretty much I ran out of legs after that 45 seconds. Jumping ahead a little bit, and now there's only 4 of us. We have a couple people about 5 seconds behind us, but after that, they're about at least half a minute back of them. Each of us are Category Cs. There is no Cs in the lead group. In terms of our category, we're the lead group. So we're still on the same lap. Toward the top of that climb, the lead group is still within single digits. They're less than 10 seconds in front of us. So I decide to do another interval, so to speak, to try and bridge up to these guys. As I'm into this effort, I'm also looking at the graphics on the right-hand side to see what's happening with the 3 riders that are in back of me. And I don't have to look too long because they come up on me pretty darn quick. Right now I'm thinking 2 things: that I'm a bit tired and that these guys are pretty darn strong. Not only are these guys strong, but they're getting pretty smart too. At the end of my next interval, they catch me and then they counter. Well, this is one way to extend my interval. Thankfully, I'm able to catch them and prevent from getting dropped. I'll have to keep this in mind the next time I do one. We are now on the second lap, starting that main climb again. There's only 3 of us because I think the 4th person that we had some internet problems. So unless something happens, I should have a top 3. Now, those guys are attacking at the bottom. So now I have to do an impromptu interval just to try and catch them. The next group of riders behind me, just in case I gotta watch out for them, are about 35 seconds back. I am just starting to get a little concerned because it's taking me so long to catch them, but I am starting to pull them back right now. It may be that they're slowing a bit. This would be a great time for me to counter if I had the legs. And it looks like I have enough of the legs, and so I just keep on going. In the back of my mind, I'm starting to think, these guys are pretty strong, but what if I get away from them? I still have half the race to do because I'm about the halfway mark. And the group in front of us, the lead group, they're about 35 seconds minimum in front of me. No way I can catch them. So I figure, hey, this is part of my training. I'll just keep going for as long as I can. Again, my eyes were on the graphics on the right, seeing if I was going to be able to create a gap between myself and the others. And it looks like there was a bit of a gap. There was 1 second and 2 seconds. Unfortunately, I was only able to keep up this power for about 70 seconds. However, even though I couldn't maintain over 300 watts, my VO2 max power, I did dial it back to about my threshold power. Actually, I dialed it first back to recovery mode. After a bit, when they hadn't caught me yet, and I figured they were getting a bit tired, I dialed it back up to that threshold mode. It's like around 270, 280 watts. I tried to maintain that to get over the top. After about 3.5 minutes, I was caught. Actually, I wasn't caught. I was countered. And again, I'm chasing after these guys. With the race only halfway done, I got to be more frugal with those intervals. Now, while I wasn't too active in the second half of the second lap and the first part of the third lap, these other guys were, especially that guy that's out in front. He would put in a number of surges and attacks that would cause me to chase, and usually I'd be trying to get on that guy in the white jersey's wheel to try and get up to him. So now, third lap, last lap, and I figured they'd be putting an attack as we went into the climb again. And what I wanted to do was settle back a bit and then work my way up and then counter them. Well, I was settled back too far, and it took a while to catch up to them. And also, I remember on my attack on the second time, that took a lot out of my legs. I was starting to feel that familiar muscle pain in my right thigh. Be that as it may, I'm committed, and so now I'm doing this. Again, focusing on the graphics on the right, I see that I already have a second gap to the second person, or it's floating around there, and so I'm just keeping up on this. That right quad pain I mentioned just a bit ago, well, it's starting to come back. So I'm also getting tired, real tired, and the end's coming up soon. So I better slow up and conserve a bit because we have about 4 miles to go. Alas, that being stated, I decided to do yet another interval. So I'm at the back and then I'm attacking. If you look at the upper right hand corner just to the right of that, you'll see a little helmet there. That's the Aero Power Up. So that's what I'm going to use. The others may have the same thing. I don't know, of course, but that's what I'm going to use at the very end. Keeping in mind that I can't sprint. At this point, remembering that my intervals that I'm doing are basically for my workout, for my road races that are coming up and that crit. But right now, I'm hoping that my repeatability is better than their repeatability. I'm hoping they're getting worn out. I certainly am. All right, it is go time. It's about 0.7 miles away. And my plan was just to sit behind them and then run up on them and just counter and just do a long a solo. But of course, they had their own plans. The guy in the lead, he's about 12 years younger than me at 55, and the other guy's about 38. I'm doing over 400 watts just to catch him. And of course, when I do, this is where I put the counter in. I use a lot of bananas just to be able to catch him. I have the Aero Boost on just to give me that extra jump, and it'll run out before I get to the finish, of course. And I am breathing like a racehorse right now. Somehow I have the presence of mind to look at the graphics on the right, and I see those numbers go from 1 second gap to 2 second gap. They are split up. There's like 2 and 3 second gap, maybe 4 and 6. It's hard to tell right now. I'm kind of going on memory from the race. And I'm not letting up because what usually happens to me is I get passed on the last corner. That's what always happened to me. That's what usually happened to me back in the day. I'm probably something like 0.3 miles to go, like half a kilometer. So I'm still keeping this up. Now my wattage is now below 300, but it's high in the high 2s, and sometimes it leaks over into the 3s. Pretty much what you're seeing is the best I can do. I keep an eye on those guys. I don't let up because, again, this is the workout that I need. Not only that, there's that omnipresent fear I was talking about that I'm going to get caught at the end. I am so thankful that the triggers that I have for my AFib do not include doing high intensity work, because if they were, I certainly would have gone into AFib during this attack. Boom! This is the first Zwift race I've ever won. And the day's not over yet. It is on to race number 2. This is a short one, 4.3 miles, on the Volcano Circus, so there's a little bit of climbing on this one. Right at the start, I could tell my legs were going to have a little bit of trouble. Again, I was in the C category. I don't know how many people started, but there were 7 that finished. Again, we started with the other categories, and there was only 1 A finisher, but I think there were like 8 maybe B finishers, and there was an equal number of D finishers. I should be going faster right now, but I can't. I'm barely able to maintain 300 watts. At this point, all I can do is hope that they slow up in front of there. But again, this is a very short race, so they have fresh legs, and a lot of them are younger. Actually, I'm sure pretty much everyone is younger in all the categories. I know in my category, the ages range from in the 20s to in the low 40s. As I can tell by the graphics on the right, that I'm in 17th place out of 25 or 28. There's a few people right on my wheel or behind them, and the group in the front, they're about 5 seconds. 5 seconds doesn't seem so bad, but again, my legs are hurting, so it's a long, long ways. Jumping ahead, there's 2 of us that are working together. I'm about to catch a rider that's been dropped from a group, and that rider's a category D. And the reason I'm saying I'm about to catch him is because the rider I've been riding with, who's also category D, has been pretty darn smart in just riding my wheel. Once I make contact with the rider, I just hold my wattage and just continue on. He drops off. The other rider that was with me still stays with me. Jumping ahead at this point, we're about 3 kilometers from the finish. We're on the backside of the climb, and this is where he starts to get away from me. I'm still holding whatever wattage I can, which is not a lot, admittedly. And I'm hoping, since he's a D, that he's not going to be holding a lot of wattage either, and that I'm going to catch him when we get to the entrance that goes into the mouth of the volcano. Long story short, I never catch him. He continues to pull away from me. And he actually ends up first in the Ds. I'm able to stay away from the person that's about 4 seconds in back of me. Where I ended up first in the previous race in the category Cs, I ended up last on this one. Still, a very, very good workout for me. I hope you enjoyed this and got something out of it. As always, remember, comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.